This evening, government eyes Linden as ideal tourist destination. Housing Minister says no discrimination within his ministry. It is all a matter of demographics. Electric Motorcyclist run over by truck on Mandela Avenue. In the region, the Venezuela-Colombia border reopens as trade tension eases. And internationally, sixth scale as Typhoon Noru powers across western Philippines. Welcome to another broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Updates. I am Baby Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. Ranks of the Guyana Police Force are investigating a fatal accident involving a truck and an electric motorcycle at Nelson Mandela Avenue on Monday, September 26, 2022. Dead is 45-year-old Howard Greenage of Durban Backlands, Georgetown. Enquiries disclosed that around 9:25 p.m., motor lorry GZZ 8550 driven by 40-year-old Trinidadian national Fazal Mohammed of Diamond Grove New Housing Scheme East Bank Demerara was proceeding south along Nelson Mandela Avenue. The electric motorcycle driven by Greenage was proceeding in the same direction in front of the motor lorry to its left in the pedal cycle lane. As the motor lorry attempted to drive past the cyclist, the left rear wheel of the motor lorry collided with the cyclist, causing him to fall onto the road surface along with the electric cycle. The motor lorry wheel then drove over the cyclist's head, crushing him. The driver of the motor lorry was unaware of what transpired. However, he was subsequently intercepted by the police and informed about the incident and arrested. An emergency ambulance from the Central Fire Station was summoned with EMT personnel, and the motorcyclist was pronounced dead on the scene. His body was formally identified by his relatives and escorted to the Memorial Funeral Home, awaiting a post-mortem examination. Notice of intended prosecution was served on the driver of the motor lorry after a breathalyzer test conducted on him found no trace of alcohol in his breath. He is presently in police custody, assisting with further investigations. Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell has refuted claims that the government's nationwide housing programs discriminate against a particular section of Guyanese. The minister denounced these allegations while speaking at a recent allocation exercise at IFLOT West Coast Demerara Region 3, noting the government does not discriminate but rather takes into consideration one variable: you have to be a pending applicant. The Minister of Housing and Water indicated that if Region 3's demographics appears one way, that is how Region 3 is, contrasting the region's demographics to those of Linden, which he stated looks one way for reasons beyond his control. He further remarked that when someone takes a lot from the envelope, you never know who your neighbor will be. Minister Crow further noted that the ministry has been able to reduce the backlogs of applications in most regions. He articulated the only requirement needed is the prior established policy where persons must be Guyanese, be of a certain age, and have an application in the system. He declared that there had been no discrimination at the Ministry of Housing. According to Minister Crowell, the government has now initiated an aggressive national housing initiative that has resulted in the distribution of nearly 17,000 house lots to Guyanese in just over 2 years. Some 1,200 units are currently being constructed in regions 3, 4, 6, and 10. The current administration pledged to deliver 50,000 housing lots to Guyanese before the next election cycle as part of a commitment made to the Guyana people during the 2020 election campaign. A 17-year-old girl tragically lost her life by drowning during a family day out at a creek in Wisma, Linden on Sunday, September 25th. The teen had been identified as Nazina Samaru of Little Diamond Squatting Area East Bank Demerara. According to the police report, the now deceased Samaru was on a family outing in the company of her 34-year-old mother and 40-year-old foster father and her 5 siblings at a creek in Wisma. Whilst there around 5:30 p.m., she and her 8-year-old brother decided to go swimming. After a while, he noticed his sister, who attempted several times to swim across the creek, was missing, and he raised an alarm. A search of the entire area was immediately done by the family and other public-spirited persons, and the body of the now deceased teenager was found at the bottom of the creek. Her motionless body was escorted to the Linden Hospital complex, where she was pronounced dead on arrival by a doctor on duty. There were no marks of violence seen on the body. However, the body is presently at the pensioners' mortuary in Linden awaiting a post-mortem examination. Stick around after the break. Government eyes Linden as ideal tourist destination, and Guyana observes World Tourism Day.
Guyana goes on show from September 16th to October 2nd for the first ever Cricket Carnival with an exciting lineup of parties, concerts, pageants, CPL cricket semis and finals, and Carnival Costumes Parade. Book your tickets now. For more information, log on to cricketcarnival592.com or our social media pages. Come and experience our people, our food, and culture from September 16th to October 2nd.
The sixer! That's the first of the night.
Maison Francois is the chocolate paradise of Guyana. From the moment you enter our stores, you're welcomed by the sweet aroma of Belgian chocolate, pastries, and other artisanal treats handmade by our European-trained chef. However, Maison Francois is more than just chocolate. We serve lunch, dinner, afternoon tea, and even Sunday morning mimosa brunch. Our convenient location at 133 Thomas Street, Kitty, makes it the perfect place to take that special someone or to take home a little sweetness. Treat yourself with the taste of Paris in the heart of Georgetown. Only at Maison Francois.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brick Dam and White Castle Fish Shop. Be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Welcome back. Today, Guyana joined the rest of the world in observance of World Tourism Day. Being celebrated under the theme of rethinking tourism, Guyana will now offer 4 new tourism experiences. Director of the Guyana Tourism Authority, Kamrul Bash, said the Guyana Tourism Authority has engaged all the regional tourism associations, the Tourism and Hospitality Association of Guyana, and other stakeholders to develop an event that will speak to the theme of World Tourism Day. He highlighted that the activities would encapsulate the launch of 4 new tourism products: the Morning Nature Experience and the Mangrove Heritage Tour in Region 4, the Kopena Waterfall Tour, and the New Amsterdam Heritage Trail Tour. A tourism mural will also be launched at Molson Creek, while Barracara Falls and Kaikoverall tourism enhancement initiatives in Region 7 will also be initiated. Other regions will also have activities planned in recognition of World Tourism Day. Guyana has over recent years been making strides in the tourism industry. capturing several international prizes, including #1 Best Ecotourism Destination in 2019. Tourist arrivals are again showing an upward trend in Guyana, indicating a recovery after the devastating effects of COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown. The government of Guyana has prioritized tourism as an area for sustainable development and one that has great potential to contribute tremendously to the country's development. President Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali said on Sunday that government would explore every opportunity to develop Linden as an ideal tourist destination. Speaking to journalists on the sidelines of the Grand Cricket Carnival Regatta held at Blue Lake, Dr. Ali said, Linden has all the elements to become a masterpiece high-end luxury eco-resort. He said Blue Lake has nature, sand, water, and the space to build such a facility.
What is our objective here is to build a tourism product and build activities all around Guyana, using cricket, carnival, our culture, our geographic space as advantages and making the best use of the advantages and competitive advantage each region has.
He noted that the government is pursuing opportunities which are not sequestered nor reliant on one sector. Dr. Ali was adamant that the intention is for sporting events to become a major factor in the tourism sector, with activities such as cricket, horse racing, squash, and football. He said the regatta event would help to showcase the different geographic spaces.
Most people don't even know this exists. A lot of people from overseas, when they saw it, they said, wow, where is this? So that is what we have to do in this space. Showcase the opportunities, showcase the different advantages we have. And in that, I think is a great success, a grand success.
Meanwhile, Minister within the Ministry of Housing and Water, Susan Rodriguez, said she was pleased that the Cricket Carnival has extended to host the regatta at Blue Lake. She noted that there is much that Linden could look forward to as it relates to future activities and investments. Don't go away after the break. Bank of England says monitoring markets very closely after pound plunges, and 6-scale as Typhoon Noru powers across northern Philippines.
When you need money and you gotta get it fast, Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop is the place for that confidential transaction in a quiet and secure location. You'll get the highest value per pennyweight for your gold and also enjoy the lowest interest rates and longest payback period too. Yes, for that instant transaction to solve a pressing financial problem. That Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, 46 Boyle Place, that's between the Ministry of Housing on Brickdam and White Castle Fish Shop, be your first and only choice. Creative Jewelry and Pawn Shop, safe and sound, solid and secure, always there for you. Telephone 231-7878 and 223-8955.
Sooner or later you will have another power failure. Are you prepared for the next blackout? Some essential equipment such as security cameras, lights, internet, gate motors, and water pumps may stop working. How can you prevent the next blackout? InverterTech has an affordable solution for you. A strong UPS system which uses the latest inverter and solar battery technology to prevent blackout. We smartly calculate your average power demand so you don't spend more than you need to. Call 223-2233 for more information.
Maison Francois is the chocolate paradise of Guyana. From the moment you enter our stores, you're welcomed by the sweet aroma of Belgian chocolate, pastries, and other artisanal treats handmade by our European-trained chef. However, Maison Francois is more than just chocolate. We serve lunch, dinner, afternoon tea, and even Sunday morning mimosa brunch. Our convenient location at 133 Thomas Street, Kitty, makes it the perfect place to take that special someone or to take home a little sweetness. Treat yourself with the taste of Paris in the heart of Georgetown. Only at Maison Francois.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again. Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Hey yo, GT Massive, this is Double M. All I hear me out right now is all about the Marshall Super Concert, October 1st. Right here is Cricket is carnival, is soca in Guyana. Hey, ha!
Welcome back. Now let's take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. Colombia and Venezuela reopened cargo commerce on Monday, potentially enabling billions of dollars in trade. After a years-long closure, people along the shared borders hope it will boost the economy in an area deeply affected by the conflict between the two nations. Al Jazeera's Alessandro Rampietti reports.
Adorned with flags from both countries, the first cargo trucks crossed the border between Colombia and Venezuela after years of political conflict. It's a highly symbolic moment as delegations from both governments met in the middle of the Simón Bolívar Bridge. Colombia's new left-wing president, Gustavo Petro, had made the reopening of the border a key campaign promise.
Creo que hoy es un día histórico.
I think today is a historic day for the region, for the country, for South America. Globalization is first and foremost a relationship between neighbors. Anyone who measures the flows of trade, cultural exchange and population movement will always find that the greatest amount is between neighbors. That is how it was here before sectarian madness took over hearts and brains.
The first trucks crossing from Colombia were loaded with toilet paper, plastic and medical supplies, the one from Venezuela with rolls of aluminium.
The Petro administration believes that trade between the two countries will reach $1 billion by the end of the year, and possibly $4 billion by the end of his administration 4 years from now. And they hope that most will benefit the millions of people that live along the border.
Hopefully this will help with the shortages in Venezuela and reduce contraband and the extortions we were subjected to cross. I think it will make life easier.
Relations between the two countries had reached rock bottom in 2019, when former Colombian President Iván Duque spearheaded efforts to force regime change in Venezuela. The shutdown worsened security along the border, emboldening crime gangs that control smuggling and drug trafficking. Local entrepreneurs say the border should never have been shut.
It's been 7 years without vehicles passing through here, greatly affecting the cultural, social and economic reality of the region. Millions of people had to rely on dangerous crossing, ending up victims of violence and disappearing. But what's coming is a different border that will hopefully generate employment for all.
But while the reopening is a welcome first step, everybody here agrees much more needs to be done to overcome the economic, security and humanitarian crisis affecting this border region. Alessandro Rampietti, Al Jazeera, Cúcuta.
Internationally, the value of the United Kingdom's pound has stabilized somewhat after frantic early trading saw it plunge by nearly 5% against the US dollar on Monday. Al Jazeera's Paul Brennan reports.
Sterling plunged to near parity with the US dollar early on Monday, the pound dropping by 4.85% to $1.03. That fall on top of a 3.6% drop last Friday. Investors and analysts clearly sceptical of Friday's shock and awe mini-budget by the UK Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng.
And investors are bulky. There's a lot of indigestion in terms of the amount of debt that will come online. And given that we are, of course, a current account deficit nation, that means that we are reliant on international savers, foreign savers, to really fund that deficit. And if they don't like the fundamentals in the UK that are lined up for them, well, they don't have to fund it. And that's why sterling has been on this downward path.
What spooked investors was Friday's announcement of the UK's biggest tax cuts in 50 years. Cuts that will be funded by $48 billion in extra government borrowing. Walking between government officers, flanked by an assistant, the UK Chancellor declined to comment on the market's turmoil.
Chancellor, what are you going to do about the turmoil on the markets this morning, sir?
I'm not going to make any comment now. Thank you.
But late in the afternoon, a statement was issued to try to calm investors. It emphasised that unlike Friday's announcements, further upcoming policies due in October and November will be assessed by the independent forecasting body. The opposition Labour Party is here in Liverpool at its annual conference. And Kwasi Kwarteng's opposite number, Rachel Reeves, poured scorn on the government's policy of trickle-down economics. She said Kwasi Kwarteng was fanning the flames of a national emergency.
It gives me great pleasure to introduce our Shadow Chancellor. Sterling is down. That means higher prices as the costs of imports rise. The cost of government borrowing is up. That means more taxpayers' money will go into paying the interest on our government debt. And in turn, that means the cost of borrowing for working people will now go up too, with higher mortgage repayments for families.
The government's plan to kickstart growth by cutting taxes appears to run entirely counter to the Bank of England's efforts to control inflation. Amid intense speculation the bank may call an emergency meeting to raise interest rates, the bank issued a statement saying that the regular scheduled meeting would be sufficient. It did, though, say it wouldn't hesitate to raise interest rates if required.
I think until that fundamental headlock, so to speak, between what the fiscal side is doing and the central bank is trying to do, I think once that equation is resolved, then only we'll get more clarity on where the UK economy and UK assets are headed.
By mid-afternoon, sterling had recovered its early losses and was trading at $1.08, but that's still more than 20% down on its value of a year ago, and the turmoil appears far from over. Paul Brennan, Al Jazeera, Liverpool.
And finally, the Philippines has begun cleaning up after Typhoon Noru swept across the nation part of the country, leaving 5 rescuers dead, floods and power cuts, but leaving the capital relatively unshattered. Al Jazeera's Barnaby Lowe reports.
Serafin Esquilio Jr. has had difficulty moving since suffering a stroke last December. He can't walk up the stairs in his home, so when flood waters rose on Sunday, he and his family had to evacuate.
They said it was a super typhoon. We thought we'd get flooded for sure, so we left for safer grounds. True enough, the flood came.
Super Typhoon Noru dumped torrential rains as it crossed the Philippines' largest island, Luzon. Fortunately for people in Manila, the downpour stopped just as rivers began to overflow. By Monday morning, those who'd fled to safety were back, cleaning up their homes, while government workers cleared their streets.
There were fears the Philippine capital would suffer catastrophic flooding reminiscent of that of Typhoon Kitsana back in 2009, but it was largely spared.
The local environment officer of this Manila suburb says the dredging of waterways also made a difference.
We were dredging every day, so that gave the river the capacity to hold more rain.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. also praised the preparedness of the government and of the people.
I think it's clear from from what we did these last 2 days is that very, very important is preparation. Get people out of the areas of danger, put all of your assets that you're going to use.
Despite those preparations, Noru was destructive. Several rescue workers became the first known victims of the storm, and entire villages in the countryside remain flooded. Many fear the full extent of the damage is only just starting to become clear. Barnaby Lowe, Al Jazeera, Manila.
And that is it for today's regional and international news. Here now is your 3-day weather forecast. And that is all for this edition of Channel 2's Headline News Update. Tune in on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for another episode. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.